our most important event. Today we connect with South Africa. Today we welcoming our guest, Miss Tes Poors, President, Society for Incentive Travel Excellence. That means it's short we call Site Africa. Welcome to our studio, ma'am. How is you today?
Thank you so much. I'm very well, Faisal. How are you?
Yes, I am fine also, ma'am. Hope in South Africa everything is normal and situation under control, right?
Well, first of all, based in Cape Town, the weather is from sunny to rainy and it's cold, it's winter. But as for the rest of the world, we are under the COVID-19 conditions and effectively still under lockdown. We're on level 3. Business slowly but surely starting to come back to normal, although from a tourism and event point of view, we are still not able to function. And we're hoping, in fact, to get some news and updates from our Minister of Tourism in an hour from now. But in the meantime, it is what it is. We all work from home. I'm sure many of us have cabin fever at the moment, but yes, it's as good as it can be. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving us your valuable time. You know today this show is very vital for our tourism industry. You know, from Bangladesh and South Africa. From Bangladesh, no traveler visit tourism purpose South Africa before. So what is the problem? What is the reason? We discuss on our second session. Now, viewers, we want to present a presentation, and Miss Tes Poors, President South Africa, she will present the presentation. Let's see what she present for us today. Thank you, ma'am. Please continue from your side.
Thank you, Faisal. It's a great privilege to be here, and welcome to everybody that is watching. Just first, let me touch on visitors from Bangladesh to South Africa. There really is a perception that we have no visitors, but I've actually personally had some visitors from Bangladesh through my groups, and we have regular visitors. I know visas are always a tough thing, but we have that with many countries, not just Bangladesh, and it is something that our government, our Ministry of Tourism is aware of. They're working very hard at it. There's good news that e-visas may be implemented shortly. Obviously, with COVID-19 and with no travel at the moment, we can't give those timelines, but we hope to see that as soon as international travel and borders open again. I was having a conversation with people from SA Tourism just about an hour ago, and happy to say that we, before our borders were closed down, we actually had 230 visitors from Bangladesh just in March, which is, we basically had 1 week of travel in March. So it's positive on that side. As far as incentive travel goes, I should probably give you an overview of what SITE is about and where we fit in. We're a relatively small association. It is a global association with the headquarters in Chicago. And we have over 2,500 members in about 90 countries. Quick history on SITE Africa. Until recently, we were SITE Southern Africa. But we felt that we don't have chapters in other parts of Africa. So in order to make it inclusive, to help develop the incentive travel and in fact MICE travel across Africa, it was agreed that we should rebrand to SITE Africa. And that is a very new rebrand that we've done only a few months ago. In fact, we launched our strategic plan to help develop site within Africa, and provide the education and all the other good things one need to provide for good incentive travel. And I'll go on a bit more what exactly incentive travel is in a minute. But we launched that on the 25th of February, and a week later we had our events banned, and then a few days later we had travel banned. So it's been an interesting and challenging time for all of us. But what we've also realized is during what's effectively a quiet time, as our CEO regularly says, never waste a good crisis. So we are using this time to provide training and education, and in fact, increasing our membership. Site has been very generous in providing free education for new members, discounted rates on many things, and we can talk a bit more about that later. Those are just some of the benefits of being a site member. But just talking about what is SITE, as you mentioned, it is the Society of Incentive Travel Excellence. So incentive travel is a highly specialized form of business travel. And why we call it incentive travel, for those who are not familiar, is incentive travel is one of the greatest motivating rewards that one can give an employee. And we have found through studies time and time again that people look forward to this one trip a year, this unique experience. Quite often it's a trip they would never do themselves, or probably can't afford on their own. So it's really, really a superb experience. And experience is the key word here. It's something unique. Quite often within our tours, we include experiences that you cannot go to your concierge desk and buy off a brochure. So it's tailor-made for that group. And we also very clearly understand the difference of cultures, not just within nations, but also within companies. So your finance sector will have a very different need for experiences to, for instance, your IT sector, where people tend to be younger and a bit more adventurous. So we absolutely try and understand what our client's goal is, what they want to achieve with their group. Is it personal growth? Is it a sense of achievement? Is it bonding with their colleagues from around the world? So once we understand what the client needs, we prepare that trip for them according to what they want the group to achieve. And quite often there's quite an emotional connection with these trips as well. There's also some studies from around the world that has been released recently looking at trends, and we found that there's more of a move towards experiential than glitz and glamour. Generalizing, of course. It's quite an in-depth study, so I won't take too much time on that right now. But I'll just take you through some slides to give the audience an overview. And as I said, I've reduced this quite a bit, so you can ask me some more specific questions afterwards. But for the sake of time, let's have a look. So for those who are not familiar with MICE, it has nothing to do with furry creatures. It's an acronym for meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibitions, or events. Both of those fall under the E. And incentive travel is probably the smallest component of business travel, but it's the highest yielding within those sectors. We find that your incentive travel groups tend to spend a great deal more than your conferencing groups. Whereas a conference, they come into the destination for 3 or 4 nights. They'll spend money on the hotels, some corporate events, and maybe a little bit of sightseeing. Whereas your incentive group is highly specialized, not always 5-star. Some companies would go for a 4-star hotel, but spend more on the experience. For some, the experience is absolutely key. For other groups, the cuisine is absolutely important. They'll spend more money on those experiences. Of course, Cape Town is synonym with gourmet and wine, so we do a lot of wonderful wine and food experiences. quite often interactive with smaller groups, interacting with a winemaker, with a chef, and doing a wine pairing and blending experience. So, like I said, we're just over 2,500 members, founded in 1973. Let me take you to the next one. This we're a truly global association. Like I said, 90 countries and 30 chapters. I'll touch on the chapters a little bit later so you can relate that to Bangladesh. And we really are specialists in the global incentive industry. If you look at who your members are, Full Service Incentive House, these are the companies that put together the incentive programs for the corporates. They measure the sales performance, make sure that they reach their targets, and then put together the trip. You have your airline and cruise companies. Cruising has been very popular, especially in the North America, for incentive groups. Some of your corporations, there are quite a few corporations who have their own in-house incentive divisions who will put together these programs for the company. So those are some members. And of course, our suppliers. Our suppliers are key, be it hotels, be it venues, because those are the people that we form our relationships with in terms of putting these amazing trips together. And then the biggest component, of course, DMCs, which is your destination management company. That's a company like myself. I'll give you some more information about my company a bit later, but we are called Crystal Events Africa. We are based in Cape Town, but we operate in most African destinations. And our job is to take that brief from the client or the incentive house and turn that into a trip of a lifetime, and make sure that people go back home with big smiles on their faces and totally motivated. Some of the benefits of SITE, as I mentioned earlier, we have fantastic education. It keeps evolving all the time. We launched the Certified Incentive Travel Planner course about 2 years ago. So it's relatively new, quite intense, and it's aimed at people who have at least 5 years plus experience in the industry. Your entry-level course is the CIS, or the Certified Incentive Specialist. And that's also available online, and at the moment they've got some really good deals for members on completing those courses during this pandemic. Loads of research. Those are the results I spoke about earlier, where we're looking at trends, what's happening in the Americas, in Europe, and in Asia. And although the cultures and the type of incentives across those regions are very different, the trends do seem to be quite similar. A lot of that is obviously going to change after the pandemic. We've already seen various changes. Some companies are still very eager to travel. Others are a lot more careful, or relating to liability and uncertainty as to where the world and the economies are going. But that's a separate discussion. And of course, the networking. The networking is absolutely critical, and it's relationships. Our lives revolve around relationships, and those are key. You know, be it our clients, be it our suppliers, or amongst ourselves, our peers. And it's always, you know, so much easier to, if you would come to me and say, look, I need a really good DMC in Italy. Can you recommend somebody? And that personal recommendation I always find very valuable, because I know that if you go and talk to that person, you are going to be in good hands. So that personal referral is always a good thing to have. And then, as I mentioned, your professional certification. There is another course being developed right now, which I don't have all the details on it yet, but we'll share that as soon as it's launched. And then just in general, you know, being part of the SITE family, we are always networking and sharing information. It's the fastest growing sector of business events, connecting with thought leaders. And I think we've seen an awful amount of that over the past 2 months, with everybody being locked down and having these Zoomathons, I call it. I think I've never seen so many virtual meetings ever. But it's been a great opportunity to actually connect with people and share ideas and thoughts, and figuring out how are we going to get out of this in one piece. And every day something changes. As soon as we think we're okay, the next day something else happens, and changes everything on its head. So it's been an incredible, it's been a trying process, but also a great learning process and realizing how resilient people can be. Also, you know, talking about the agencies, organizations who are doing millions of dollars worth of business, that will probably change a great deal once this COVID pandemic has finally come to an end. There may be many companies who won't survive it due to reduced economies, especially in the travel and event sector. And then finally, you know, due to our networking, as I mentioned earlier, a great deal of sharing of information and learning from your fellow DMCs and other people in the industry. We spoke about the education. Our global conference is always a great event. It's been happening early every year, sort of January. It moves from region to region, regular webinars sharing information. And then, of course, we have our online training, which is one of the great advantages. So you can do it in your own time. You don't actually have to sit through lectures. Then these are two of the certifications I mentioned earlier. I'll just bounce through all of this. These are the audiences that we speak to. And I don't think we need to go through this entire slide. It's really about the certification, about Sci Foundation. They're doing tremendous work with research and funding certain very special projects. So this is an old slide, as you can see. So the budgets were up for 2018, more qualifiers. I think our industry took a massive knock in 2009 with I call the Lehman Brothers incident. So it took years for the confidence to come back. By 2018, 2019, it was all looking great globally. And now we have to start from scratch. So it'll take some time before we see what clients are willing to spend. Will they have the same budgets? Chances are not. Will they be keen to get on a plane as soon as the skies open? Probably not, or at least they will want to, but they will be careful, because what's the liability if one of their employees do pick up a virus somewhere along the line? That said, one of the trends we've seen changing is, whereas golf used to be a very popular incentive trip before, well-being, mental and physical health seems to be more at the order of the day than before. So, would you like me to continue now about our destination, or do you have some questions before you continue?
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your sharing. Hope this sharing is really very excellent and experienced presentation. And this sharing, this knowledge sharing, is help us, our tourism, to connect with sites, because sites is a society of incentive tourism excellence. So I think very soon our industry get light and connect with South Africa. Site, because you know, in Bangladesh there is ma'am, can I minimize your presentation so
you may, yes, please.
Yes, can from your side, if you do, then it's well for us. Okay, I just need you know, in Bangladesh, we are not connected with this site, and very few know about site, what is site, and how this organization working for, and what is the benefit, and why we are taking member. You know, Bangladesh is development is tremendous. last 15 years, we do lot of things. We do a lot of development in our country. And which number you mentioned that you received on March, 230 tourists. You know, in the same time last year, Botswana received only 260 tourists, and in the same time from 2019 to March, Zimbabwe, no tourists received from Bangladesh. And I check with Uganda and Tanzania, they don't receive any tourists from Bangladesh, which is countable. You know, last few days we are talking about this matter. From Bangladesh, 22 million visitors visit India. 22 million. This is the top position of Indian tourism as industry. We reach #1 position, and we contribute in Indian inbound tourism. 22 million is not a matter of jokes. So if 1%, if you targeting, then 22,000 in year, you can easily reach in Bangladesh and getting tourists from Bangladesh. This is my opinion. What is the problem in the industry? We all are good, but very few are bad who are done human trafficking. We strictly not support this type of trafficking, but we encourage tourism. That's why I saw the destination Tanzania, Uganda. Our next program, I already talked with Rwanda and Namibia. This Africa, I think this is the lot of environment for tourist attraction, lot of, which we don't know much. What we need to do, we need to connect with this industry. If we go to Thailand, we expend our money in Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam. When we go to there, then we expend our money. In Bangladeshi currency, it's 1.5 million taka need to travel, more than $2,000. $2,000. So if we expend money in those countries, then why not we youth tourism attract us? There is a lot of opportunity like safari, like wildlife, like cruise already there. There is the incentive is very well. Also South African nightlife tremendous. So why not our tourists attract? I have no question why we not getting visa. This is totally responsible the authority of immigration embassy who give us visas. So what is our problem? Our problem from your end, no one encourages us. Why I connect with you? Because I want to open the door. This is the starting. You are the president. When I invite you and I have a connection with you, now the door is open. Now our culture, tourism, our activities in day by day update. Maybe this will be happen, and from South Africa getting tourists from Bangladesh in future. I pray that you taken a step to connect with our tourism leaders who do outbound tourism. Different countries, Turkey, Dubai, Thailand, Malaysia, why not we see Africa? What is the problem? That I mentioned, and that my remarks to you, you taken action as a president of South Africa. You know, a lot of incentive, MISS event we are doing in Thailand, in Malaysia, in Singapore or Indonesia. Why not Africa? If we go to India, then there is connection to reach South Africa. If we go to Dubai or Qatar, then we have a very good connection to reach South Africa. So we have a lot of opportunity to discuss, and hope you will talk with your tourism board how we benefited from both sides. You know, Bangladesh have a lot of attraction. Through you, I want to introduce our mangrove heritage site, Sundarban, which is called now UNESCO Heritage Site. There is Royal Bengal tiger, there is a thousand of type trees, there is a large number of the mangrove forest, the inside. We only reach the very few miles, but not whole area. Also, we have Cox's Bazar. There is the blue whale in the middle of Cox's Bazar. There is the Bay of Bengal, blue whale. And we have an island which is called Saint Martin. In our language, we call it Narikel Jinjira. In the English, that is Coconut Island.
Okay.
Yes, in Bengali we told, we called it Narikel Jinjira. In English, when you convert the language, then it is Coconut Island. There are lot of attraction in the island. We have lot of heritage monument, archaeological monuments in here. You know, in which city I am live. It is the past capital city of Bangladesh. Now it's an industrial hub, which is the contribute in Bangladesh economical growth. In garments industry, in this city is 850 industrial garments in there. And we have most important two heritage site. This is the Esquire waterfall called is Hajiganj Fort, and another one is Sonakanda Fort. This is Triangle Fort. This is the water fort, which is the more than 700 years ago. The Mughal Amal, it will be built for river protection. So
wow, that sounds impressive.
A lot of things in Bangladesh, and you know, I am the member of Tour Operator Association of Bangladesh. Also, I am government authorized travel and tour operator, and also member of Japan Association of Travel Agents, JATA. Also, I am member of Inbound Travel Association of Bangladesh. So when we connect, there is lot of opportunity is open for us. I want your cooperation, and hope in future we will presenting site in Bangladesh. We want to open site in Bangladesh, and I want your cooperation how we start to open this chapter in Bangladesh. I want your cooperation. Ma'am, if you say something.
Sure, with pleasure. Thank you for sharing all that information with us. And indeed, I understand the frustration that perhaps there's not enough focus on developing tourism from Bangladesh. I am very happy to say, though, in my conversation with South African Tourism earlier, they actually have a new country manager in India, and we've set up a call for early next week, at which point I'd be delighted to introduce you, and perhaps the country managers, somebody responsible in Bangladesh for tourism development, can connect with this lady. Her name is Neliswa, and she's a specialist in that area. But there is definitely no reason for people from Bangladesh not to come to Africa. So I cannot speak for other African countries, although we do collaborate with them on a regular basis. The nice thing about Africa is that, you know, you don't come to Africa just for one country for a holiday. Many people who come to South Africa would also extend to Namibia or Zimbabwe or Botswana or both, you know, all three of that country sometimes. The lovely thing is with access from Cape Town or Johannesburg, you can fly into a place like Victoria Falls or just across the falls into Livingstone. So that's two countries separated by Victoria Falls, and just across the river you have Botswana. So you can literally visit three countries in one day, which is one of the special things about that region. And I know you recently spoke to Gillian Blackbeard, who is so passionate about that part of the world and such a great champion for it. And also we collaborate with West Africa, we collaborate with East Africa. And lots of great development going on there. And honestly, I was surprised when you told me that they've not had any visitors from Bangladesh. So yes, I agree, there are great opportunities. That's just from a general tourism point of view. Speaking from a site point of view, to be honest, I will need to learn more from yourself and your colleagues. What opportunities is there for incentive travel from Bangladesh, you know, understanding the industries and what the reward systems are that Bangladeshi business owners would like for their employees to experience, and in fact develop and motivate, because motivation and, you know, increasing performance is what incentive travel is all about. Very impressive figures from Bangladesh into India. Indeed, I can understand it. It's right on your doorstep there. And as you say, Qatar Airways, Turkish Airways, good airlift into Africa via the Middle East. So yes, the opportunities are there, and I'll gladly set up conversations with our South African tourism and our other site chapters.
Ma'am, if you organized a panel discussion, I will invite our tourism board, CEO or director or assistant director, some official will be present on this discussion. If you arranging a panel discussion with your Indian country manager, who she look after Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, maybe also. So we can exchange. Yes, we have for your acknowledgement, I want to share that from Bangladesh, lot of MISS and incentive we are done around the year. It will be held on Thailand. Some of we go to Dubai for the desert tourism, and this is the group size at least normally 20 to 500.
Wow.
This is the one size of group. When it is the banker boss level or managerial level who do work in bank or insurance or in medical, then the group size is 200 plus 300.
Right. Okay. In fact, there are two other people I would very much like to introduce you to as soon as possible. And the one is Mr. Sanjeev, who is at the moment the president of the India chapter. And hopefully we can also reach out to Mr. Rajiv Kohli, who was not only chapter president for India, but also our global president a couple of years ago.
Oh.
And I have no doubt that they would love to engage with you and your industry there, and you know, help develop site membership and interaction within your region.
You know, we are good connected. We are in our mentality. We are good connect with India, in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Kolkata, now in Tripura also. This is the another part of India. This is called Tripura, but most of the city is the Delhi, Mumbai, then Kerala, then Goa. So if is possible to if you focus from sites, you can more response all over the globe, because you getting more response from Bangladesh. You know, yesterday I a lot of time see site website, and there I find more country involved with site. But I am astonished that Bangladesh now are sleeping. Why? Why we are not connect with site? Why we are not interesting? Someone need to take in a step to make a connect. Then door is open. When
Absolutely.
site is coming there, then our industry is developing. Our industry is more responsive. If some lackings, we get training, we get education. If we have need to upgrade like compliance from urine site, we can measure it up to date. Because in industry, if we need to stay, then we need to make our standard. Without standard, no one can live in this industry, because without standard, no one can make a call to UTOS or me, Faisal, give me a tourism. Am I right or wrong? You just.
You are absolutely right. Yes. So if I may reply to that, you know, I had a conversation with a colleague from a different association this morning, and it always starts with one. And I think, you know, you are the one who is starting the awareness for Bangladesh and the potential that your country holds for tourism and, in fact, incentive travel. And I'm very grateful for you for opening the door, and let's get those opportunities rolling. So by next week, I'm happy to set up those conversations, and let's make it happen. Congratulations.
And, thank you, ma'am. And I am very much grateful to Miss Jillian. She is very helpful, and I getting you touch, and you are also very helpful. Also, Mr. Kumbi from Zimbabwe, he's the president of Tour Operator Association of Zimbabwe. He is also very gentleman.
Yes.
Why? Yes. This is time for I need to complete my duty. It's my duty to connect, to knock your door. Hey, I am here. Please open. What is the problem with us? Please find. We want to watch your sky, your life. We want to taste your food, your culture, your events. Please give us opportunity. We are here. Our traveler is more passionate.
That's lovely.
So, ma'am, few words, because we have next session. We go to viewers. We go to the arrange our next session in YouTube. So connect with us on YouTube. For this time, I want to say goodbye, ma'am. Viewers, for our tour operator who do outbound. few words for them.
No, with pleasure. First of all, thanks again for the opportunity. I think you've presented massive opportunities here, and to the tour operators. Faisal has got my contact details. Reach out to us, please, and from a site perspective, we will definitely make contact, and also from a South African tourism perspective, to see the potential in that market. And I think it's a case of mutual education, it's awareness. I think perhaps our markets do not have enough awareness of the Bangladesh market, and it will be great to get more information and help you find those opportunities for development. I thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. If you need any type of information from Bangladesh for develop your Bangladesh or encourage Bangladeshi tourism to visit South Africa, I am here and our community with you for
Fantastic.
ready to help, and our tourism board anytime you arrange meeting will be participate from our tourism board, no problem. Thank
Much
you.
appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am.